Hi, everybody. This is day 1000. Was forcibly removed from his barracks room and taken to the arms room where it's soundproof, and they took his life. They took his life there, and then they stole his body because they thought that they were above the law, that, they could get away with doing all kinds of despicable, degenerate things. And they took his body, and of course, um, all of our information that we have tells us that he was dismembered, he was cashed in on. And you go, what do you mean? What do you mean? They have this system there. They have this system through the funeral and mortuary affairs. And, the unidentified migrants, you don't need a whole body for an unidentified migrant. And you get humanitarian aid on the U.S. side, humanitarian aid on the Mexican side of the border. This is an international crime. And of course, Richard was a U.S. Army soldier. And so, when you have someone in the VA, when you have people in the VA and the VA is then compromised, then you have impersonators, and they impersonate um, to get the death benefits, the VA death benefits, which is hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so, this is, not just throwing him out in the desert. Of course, the head, which Chris Martin was digging in the desert for Richard's head. It's because the head is the identifying, the dental, that's how you really identify a person. And so they don't like the head. They don't like the head, right? Um, it is, it's just been hell. It's just been absolutely a horror story. And these people create a horror life, they create a horror story, and they commit horror crimes. And so we have been asked to investigate our son's disappearance, um, and the taking of his life and the cover up. And we have done that. And we have done that for over 5.5 years. And now here we are with the horror story. The horror story. And part of that is connected because they assigned Richard. Richard was a whistleblower, right? That's why they targeted him. He was a uncompromised whistleblower. Not only that, and this is very important, uh, that he was also the distinguished honor graduate, that he was making rank with waivers. He was doing so well that he was the guidon bearer, right? And if you asked him anything, you know, he would do it without question. So says his first sergeant. But when you look up the first sergeant Ruggiero, which we never met when we were there for months and months. He was there, and he never met because he's up to no good. He's totally compromised with Lilani Hart, with the Mormon cartel faction, totally compromised with his wife, Hema. I call her Hema Saboteur, Hema Ruggiero. Um, uh, across the border activities with Nadal Baim, with uh, Ambrose, with and Jonathan Caleb Ambrose and Danae Katzen, and of course it was Hema and Lilani that were up to no good together. And of course one was the first sergeant's wife, the other one was the platoon leader's mother, and they were up to no good. I guess they were given the task to try to intimidate us and silence others, put out a false story, a false narrative, um, threaten whatever it took to uh, cover up the fact that the Sinaloa cartel, that the Mormon faction tied to the cartel, were operating on Fort Bliss, were operating there in El Paso, doing the worst type of crimes against children, doing the worst type of fraud crimes, I mean, just absolutely doing the worst type of crimes and bringing hell to El Paso, bringing hell to Fort Bliss, bringing hell to Delta Battery 143, which controlled fuel. You know, Delta Battery controlled fuel. And that's why that was so important. And that's why easily, if you're a non compromised soldier and you see strange things going on, you know, with criminal trafficking, including weapons and ammunition and fuel and everything, you know, parts and everything. And then also with the children, hundreds of thousands of children. Um, and, you know, just all the fraud, right? All of the substances, the drug abuse and everything like that. You know, Richard, you know, saw the security threat, saw the security breach, saw the bigger picture. You know, he was raised in Germany and Ireland, and in Ireland in 2008. He absolutely remembers the difference between, you know, one day and the next in 2008 when the entire country fell apart. It fell apart, right? And all the young people had to leave the country. They had to leave the country because the economy had fallen apart, and you know it was so obvious. I mean, everything changed overnight with the Celtic crash. You know, we had the Celtic Tiger, and then it crashed, and Richard witnessed the whole thing, and he saw that the banks got bailed out, and the people didn't. The people didn't. It was something to behold, and the young people then had to leave the country in order to uh, you know, get a job. And the United States didn't take the Irish. They had to go to Abu Dhabi. They had to go to um, uh, uh, Australia. They had to go to New Zealand. They had to go to other Mid Eastern countries building. That's where they went to. And you know, Richard knew that, and he knew how devastating this kind of fraud is to a country. And so, of course, when he sees a breach, he is absolutely going to report it when it's hurting children, when they're doing the most despicable things to children. And we'll be talking more about that tomorrow. Everything is ready to go with the Rosemary purchase, Ariano, Caron, Rivera, Ramirez, you know, Cambry. I mean, she has, I don't know, all these different names. So that's ready to go, and I'll talk about that tomorrow because it is huge. It's jaw dropping, and you know, I'm just you know, have to prepare some some visuals that will be you know, not the worst type of crimes that they did, but to just put people together so that you know. And but today we have breaking news with um, El Chapo's son. El Chapo's son. So I have some notes on this whole thing because it is just I know that El Mayo is the godfather, from what I understand, of Joaquin Guzman Lopez, right? Who is El Chapo's son. And, he has this face, right? He has this face that, I mean, when you're investigating, like we have been investigating, you're really looking at everything very carefully. You're measuring everything very carefully. And the first thing that I thought, and of course in 2024, uh, before I knew who the Arianos were, I had seen Joaquin Guzman Lopez, El, El, El Chapo's son, face before. But after, looking, because we're so fortunate to have the family picture of the Ariano Quran family, right? We're so fortunate to have the picture of Rosemary, Rosa Maria, or, she goes by so many names. We're so fortunate to have these pictures, and we're very, very grateful for those that made that possible for us, because when you look at these pictures, you absolutely, can see just like Montoya, right? Just like James Bonneau Montoya, the fake DA, he looks so much like Jonathan Ambrose, right? The fugitive. Well, his wife's a fugitive, they're a fugitive. They're just total criminals, right? And it really, you put the pictures together with Patrick Crusius, right? The one of the shooters of the Walmart mass shooting, because there of clearly all the evidence points to multiple shooters. That's not me saying it. It's not a guess. It's absolutely, there's nothing to guess about, right? There's nothing to guess about. It's just very clear that there's multiple shooters in the Walmart mass shooting, and that there was a staged crime scene, because the crime scene wasn't secure for 48 hours, right? Over 48 hours, there was no secure crime scene, even though the police were all over that place, but they didn't secure it. They didn't secure it, and the video that we received, and I thank God that we received that too. That was a miracle. It shows that the narrative that they have told us in the media is false, because the video clearly shows a whole different narrative, that it was a German national that was targeted. It was someone that scores very high in forensic lookalike, that was also targeted. And I'm talking about Maria Roth, and the names are even similar. What were they doing in business together, right? Were they in business together? Because here they were both targeted at the Walmart. And how were they targeted? Well, these were headshots. These were professional execution headshots. This was not something that a person that couldn't tie their shoe when they were 18 years old could pull off, right? And you see it in the video clearly, the way he's walking, the way he's walking towards Maria. It already had been done. It already had been done. And and the same thing, this German national, this was not like a white supremacist narrative that they said. That's all false. It's clearly, and that is not because I said so, but because the video shows it, right? That there wasn't anybody at the checkouts, right? They were telling us it was just really chaos at the checkouts. There was soda being thrown. There was, point blank shots. And the video doesn't show that. The video does show the baby running out. It does show the baby parent couple there. I think it's in front of the bank, there at the Walmart. And then, of course, um, the Memo Garcia. group there on the outside. But that's all you see, and you're talking about 40, what is it, 46, 23 that were fatal, 22 or 23 more that were injured. And, where are they? Where are they? Where is the mass ambulances and everything? It just didn't, the video didn't show it, and the video showed a lot. It showed a lot. And it showed an unsecure scene, and then it also showed and proved and confirmed that the narrative that Ernest Christopher Grant, who's now arrested, right, that he gave, was, over and over and over and over again. He was the media sweetheart for the talking points, the fake and false talking points that attacked President Trump, right? That tried to, um, well, it did. It swayed the election, to interfere with the election. These negative talk and lies, negative, false narratives, um, that Ernest Christopher Grant put out there. He was just a big fat liar. That's what he was. Very, very clear. And here we have now a lot of lying about El Mayo, about El Chapo's son, a lot of lying, about how he got to the country, how they got to the country, who owns the plane. Um, so, and we have, you know, for the last year worked very hard at investigating all of this because it's very, very important. And then today, yesterday, you had this amazing information that it was El Chapo's son that entrapped El Mayo, kidnapped him, drugged him, got him on the plane, and flew to Santa Teresa Jetport. You know, uh, where authorities were there waiting for them. And of course, it seems like Rick Francis was there, but that needs to be clarified. But, because he has um, uh, big investments there at the Santa Teresa Jetport. And, you know, why were the authorities just waiting there? And why was the pilot not licensed? So someone's flying the plane and not even a pilot, right? Someone's flying the plane and not even a pilot. And we have a lot of um, tampering going on, tampering with the ID for the plane, tampering with the flight logs. Like I said, the pilot not having a license. Um, so these people just think that they could, and we know that the owner is American, right? Um, eh, it's very clear that these people thought that they were above the law, that they could just not extradite, not follow the extradite laws to this country, that they didn't have to, that they could kill anybody, that they could kidnap someone, that they could drug them, that they could, break law after law after law after law, and that they could get away with it. See, this is what happened during the whole Biden administration. They, Biden, they just thought that they could, use an auto pen and rule the world, right? With an auto pen. They thought that they could just do whatever they wanted, that they were above the law, and even the CIA, that they could just do whatever they wanted. outside the USA. But then when they come to the country, they thought that they could just do whatever they want to. But that's not how it works. That's not how it works, because in our country we have laws and regulations that need to be followed. And, what's going on here is a lot of infiltrators that don't have any respect for the American system. They have no respect for law and order. They have no respect for thinking about the future. And so they just thought that they could kidnap, they could drug, they could fly on in without any notification to the judicial system, that they could do all this, all this criminal um, activity, and they could just do it the way they wanted to do it. And well, I think that that's going to be their downfall. It's going to be their downfall, because there is a process. There is a process, and it doesn't, you're supposed to be humble, not so brazen, and they're very, very brazen. And so I think this, I don't want to call it a victory, because this is not a victory. This is about a kidnapping. This is about a drug, very, very, very serious crimes. And, you know, and now they just want to make a plea deal. I don't think we should make a plea deal with Jacqueline Guzman, the Lopez, the son of El Chapo. I don't think we should make a plea deal with him, So it's going to be interesting what they're extracting, because a plea deal is a deal, right? What are they what are they hoping for to extract? And is it Richard's remains? Were a partial Richard's remains flown out? Does he know where Richard's remains are? Because Richard and the El Mayo, Sinaloa, they have a connection because of Ray Velarde. Ray Velarde, we believe, was sent to be counsel to Richard for counterintelligence to find out what he knew. And it was just days after he signed um, uh, the legal document with Richard, that is proof that, that he was counsel. Um, that Richard's life was taken. So I think this is a huge connection between them, because Ray Velarde is also the attorney, co-attorney for El Mayo. And now we're learning that El Chapo Set is the one that is responsible for setting up El Mayo. So there is a real, they're both Sinaloa, and that you can see that there is a real war between the two going on. And they, and there's another cartel, the Juarez cartel, that are looking on. They're the competitors. And so they are absolutely looking on. And we're, keeping up with all of this. Um, all of these developments, uh, because this plea deal is a very big deal, uh, depending on what did Joaquin Guzman Lopez say. What did he give up, right, in the plea deal? So that is huge news. And when you're looking for one thing, you find other things, and we found some other things about Jonathan Ambrose, connection with, of course, Hema Ruggiero, with Ruggiero, these connections with Jonathan Caleb Ambrose. um, it, it just puts everything together to about targeting Richard and why they targeted Richard being a whistleblower, right? We know why he was a whistleblower. They didn't like whistleblowers, so because they're criminals, because they're absolutely criminals. So I have more, and I have more on Ruggiero, um, and we really haven't uh, focused on him because we've had so much already. But and we want to get the big fish, the really those that really have allowed all this to happen, which is Woody Hunt and Paul Foster and Alejandro de la Vega. Um, these are people that have connections that were up to no good, absolutely bringing hell to El Paso and Fort Bliss. And I think that's very, very important to say over and over and over again, to make posts. I need to make more posts on that. But there's so much information coming out, y'all. So I could use all the help I could get by having you share all this information, or even making your own signs and symbols, and please share them with me, because these people were involved in the most despicable crimes against children and women in need, and we need to hold them accountable for that. Absolutely. So thank you everyone for coming on so late. Look, it's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. Thank you so much for coming on so late. There's no time to sleep. We have um, huge news tomorrow morning. Maybe I'll come on earlier during the day, right? Because the news is going to be so big tomorrow. But we just want to say thank you so much. We love you, and thank you for sharing. Share. It's so important for the future, for our children, for our military, for our country. It's very important. Thank you so much. God bless.